If you have been served with a restraining order and the petitioner is lying, but you don't have solid proof that he or she is lying, then this video is for you because I'm going to be explaining exactly what to do in that situation. My name is Veronica. I am a domestic violence restraining order defense attorney here in California, and I help people put their cases behind them so that they can enjoy their lives and their freedom. I'm also the creator of a course called Defeat the DVRO, in which I teach you everything that you need to know to have your best possible chance at winning your restraining order hearing. If that is something that you are interested in, you can get your free first class via the link down below. Okay, so let's jump right in. The petitioner is lying, but you just can't really prove it with solid evidence. Okay, so here's the good news. In every type of restraining order, it is the burden of the petitioner to prove that what they're saying is true, and thus that whatever you're saying, if you say anything at all, is false. So for domestic violence restraining orders, the standard is preponderance of the evidence. They basically have to prove by slightly more than 50% to the judge's satisfaction, slightly more than 50%, that they are telling the truth and that whatever you say, if you say anything, is not the truth. For other types of restraining orders, like civil harassment restraining orders, the standard is clear and convincing evidence. Clear and convincing evidence is a higher standard than preponderance of the evidence. It's higher than slightly over 50%, and it means evidence that produces in your mind a firm belief or conviction that the allegations sought to be proved by the evidence are true. So a firm belief or conviction. So basically, clear and convincing is between preponderance of the evidence, slightly more than 50%, and reasonable doubt, which is in criminal cases where there's no doubt in your mind that's reasonable. Not aliens came down from Mars and committed the murder instead of the defendant, you know. Anything that you believe is reasonable. So basically, you have no doubts except for maybe unreasonable ones about the defendant's guilt. It's between those, right? Okay, so since the petitioner is the one in any case that is going to have the burden to convince the judge by at least slightly more than 50% in the case of DVROs, domestic violence restraining orders, and by clear and convincing evidence in the context of workplace violence restraining orders, civil harassment restraining orders, anything else, then that, for you as a petitioner, is a leg up, especially if they're lying. Because the thing about lying is they're not going to have any hard evidence to back up what they're saying, right? And the word of a witness is evidence. So they're going to have their testimony that they present in court. That's evidence. It's not hard evidence, it's not irrefutable evidence, but it is evidence. And then you are going to have yours. And you are not going to be able to disprove what they're saying. That's your problem, right? That's what you're concerned about. You're not going to have any solid evidence, like 100% that it's not true, but neither are they. The thing is, though, that again, it's their burden to prove it. So in any restraining order case in California, if it comes out as 50-50, if it's a draw, then you as the respondent win. Now as a respondent, you can screw it up. You can for sure screw it up. Some ways to screw it up would be if you get angry, if you start making a bunch of faces at the petitioner when he or she is lying, which is only natural and in real life, not in courtrooms. Maybe that is what you do, but that's not a good idea. If you interrupt the other party, if you interrupt the judge, if you file a written response, and then when you testify, you say something different than in your written response, that's not good. That shows an inconsistency, and that can potentially cause you to lose credibility. Why would your story change if you're telling the truth? So I would encourage you as a respondent, if you think it's going to be about a draw, the number one thing you want to do is make sure that you don't do anything to discredit yourself. So you want to make sure that you show up in at least business casual attire in court. You want to make sure that if you do submit a written response, which I do think that you should think twice about, and I get into that in my course, then you want to make sure that you don't change anything in that, because the judge will notice that we as lawyers, our brains, and that includes judges, are trained to spot inconsistencies. That's why it's so annoying to date us, right? We're trained to spot any little inconsistency, and it can be an innocent mistake. If you tell the same story 5 times, it's probably not going to be exactly the same every single time. But we as attorneys look for that, and even if the other side doesn't point it out, we will probably notice that. So if the judge does read your statement and then listens to you and you change it, that's a problem. You want to make sure that your demeanor is on point throughout the hearing so that you don't lose credibility there. I mean, remember, no matter what type of restraining order you're being accused of, it's pretty serious allegations that kind of go to your character. So if you show up in front of the judge and you seem like you are a professional person who would never do all the things that you're being accused of, and you have your, you know what, together, the judge is all the more likely to believe you and not believe the other party. And the judge has to make a decision within a very short time span. This isn't like a Supreme Court case where maybe they'll take weeks to make a decision and issue this 20-page opinion. This is something where they decide in a minute, or they decide as they're watching you, maybe within the first few seconds. They decide which side they're on, and they have to issue an order that day. They probably have, you know, at least 20 hearings like this that they're going to hear that day. So you want to make sure that you are doing everything you can to present yourself in a positive light. Another thing that you can do, and I'm not going to get into it in this video, I do have other videos about it, I also teach it to you in detail in my course, is obviously if the petitioner changes his or her statement, you want to make sure that you have a way to point that out. Now, if this is the only video that you watch about restraining orders, you don't watch anything about cross-examination or how to bring this up, then be very careful. The last thing you want to do is say, objection, she's lying, this is different than what she wrote in her papers. There's a specific way to do it. But the thing about lying is that it's hard to keep track of all of the things that you said before, right? And most petitioners, in my experience, if they are lying, they don't necessarily read through, hey, what did I write down before? What did I write down in my paperwork to get this TRO granted in the first place? Let me reread it and make sure that I commit it to memory. Usually they're not that organized. They sort of think that they can just go in front of the judge, cry a little bit, talk about how abused they are, whether or not it's true, and then get the restraining order. So there are specific ways to point that out in front of the judge, but again, don't try to just do it on your own based on only the information that you get in this video, because it could backfire on you. The last thing you want to seem like is a bully. Okay, so if you've made it this far in the video, then you obviously really want to win your restraining order hearing. If you're planning to represent yourself, you can keep going through YouTube, and I actually have a playlist on all of my restraining order videos. So you can keep scrolling through YouTube, watch the playlist, try to find the answers, or you can have them served to you on a silver platter, which is exactly what I do in my course. I teach you from start to finish how to approach reading the TRO when you get it in the first place, how to present your evidence, how to show that they are lying, exactly what the judge is looking for, everything that you need to know to win a domestic violence restraining order hearing. So if that is something that you are interested in, and it seems like it might be, then go ahead and click on the link in the description box to get your free first class so that you can check it out. And if you did find this video helpful, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell.